Next, we have the author of Flow, the Devotional for Grown Folks by Pam Reid. Pam, this is your third book with us. Congratulations, and thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you, Ramses. It's a pleasure to be here.
Wow, listen, I have seen you grow and develop and do such important work. And the title here speaks so clearly. It says Flow, the Devotional for Grown Folks. And I want you to tell us, because I know what a devotional is, what exactly is a devotional for grown folks?
Well, I'm glad that you feel like you know what a devotional is because, right? So, the devotional for grown folks is very different. Now, I will tell you that it's not rated R, but it's certainly not rated G. I
Okay.
mean, in this book, we address a host of things and not your typical, right? We keep it really real. We're very grounded. We know that life happens and life happens in such a way where it's not always pretty. And so FLOW is an acronym that stands for Feel, Love, Over Worry. And so in this book, we're not just feeling love over worry, we're feeling love over withdrawal. We're feeling love over worthlessness. We're feeling love over weariness and weakness and wrongdoings. We're feeling love over the kinds of things that people deal with every day. And what I didn't know is that there's a W word for almost everything that anyone would go through in life.
Wow. So, what is an example of someone who sees the title of your book and is having some kind of maybe worry or some kind of flow issue? How do they know your book will be applicable to them, maybe in their problem, in their situation? How does the flow process or method or the concept apply to this person?
Well, Ramses, every single thing that we do, everything that we say, everything that we feel, it starts right here, right? With our mind and with the thought. And so when thoughts around grief creep up, from the loss of a loved one or something specific, something significant in our lives, it could be the thought of pain from betrayal or some wrongdoing, or maybe it's the feelings of regret from our past choices and decisions, right? Or maybe it's just feelings around just being anxious for preparing for an interview, or being anxious about starting something new or extending ourselves beyond our comfort zone, right? Whenever any of those kinds of feelings crop up, flow is an opportunity to replace that, to replace it with love. Feel love over whatever it is, feel love over whomever it is. And so, what really is the love, right? And so, for some people, it may be something different, but in flow, it's the love of God, right? Because God is love. And so, you can replace all of those feelings of worry and concern and worthlessness and being in the wilderness, or maybe you're in a season of weeding where God's pruning you, right? He's getting rid of some of those people and some things in your life. Maybe it's waffling, right? Where it's indecisiveness, and you don't understand that being indecisive means that it's spilling over into other areas of your life. There are countless things that people can replace. And here it is, it's all about love. And in the flow book, there are some very specific, practical things to use to replace it. And my hope is that whenever someone hears the word flow, whenever they see the word flow, just love just comes to mind. The love of God is just the first thing that comes to mind. Or maybe they ask themselves a question, Ramses. Maybe they say, you know what, wait a minute. In this situation, have I invited God into this situation? Have I invited God into the everyday details of my life? That is my hope with this book.
I love that. And you speak to something super relevant in today's world. A lot of people are experiencing grief, and you mentioned on that a little bit. And if I'm thinking, there's a lot of people who almost feel they don't want to burden someone by bringing up their grief, right? Is this something that your book would also help with?
Absolutely, absolutely. People don't really talk about it much, but everyone, and I do mean everyone, has a certain tolerance level for someone else's pain, someone else's grief. I mean, you see it, right? You're hurting, and you're leaning on people, and you're leaning on people, and you're needing people, and they're there for a time. Right. And then sometimes you need other things, other resources. This devotional, the devotional for grown folks, is not meant to replace your Bible. No, it's an accompaniment, right? It's that thing that will help provide encouragement and inspiration and give you the motivation to again replace those very heavy feelings, even anxiety that some people feel almost every day for one reason or another. This is a book that there are stories, there are scriptures, there's a strategy. And in all of that, you can find yourselves in a place where, you know what, I can do this. I can get to this place. And you will see very, very seriously, you will see how you can go from A to B to C. I'm not talking about from A to Z. I'm talking about one step at a time, because whenever you're going through something challenging, this is, yes, God is still in the business of miracles. Yes. But
Right.
there's a practical approach here. And I think that if you practice flow like I've done, I go back to my days of being a little girl. And I remember leaning on the side of my bed every night. It was a twin bed. I was 9 years old, and I would always pray about the same thing over and over again. And that was just asking for forgiveness for not being perfect. And that was just like, no one ever told me that we weren't designed or created to be perfect, right? So things happen and life happens. But when you don't know that, and it spills over into your adult life, sometimes that works in business and entrepreneurial ventures, but it doesn't always work when it spills over into relationships where the expectations are just way too high, and there's not a real good understanding of how to address some of the difficult things that we deal with. And flow helps you do that. Flow is a reminder that, what, I want to flow through life. I want things to be smooth. I want things to be peaceful. I want things to just be steady. And they're not always that way, but I can respond that way. I can
Right.
live that way. It's all a choice.
I love that. I love that so much, especially since you're dedicating it to the adult who needs the flow, right? Because adulting has been kind of tough. I'm not gonna lie lately. So it's so beautiful that you're doing this divinely inspired work. Now, speaking of flow, though, this is actually your third book. So how has this process been different the third time around here with us, the author incubator? How is your third book experience?
Well, first of all, it is just as exciting as my first book. It's a work that is going to be meaningful, that is meaningful, a work that is going to make a difference in other people's lives and in the world. You just know that. But I have to tell you, this was different in that I wrote this book during a pandemic, right? I wrote this book during a pandemic, which for me was like being on a sabbatical with God. So that made it very different in itself, because not only do I know that this book will make a difference for others, it's made a difference in me. I mean, as I was writing it, there was some transformation and some things that were going on internally. So that was beautiful. Not only the pandemic, but all the civil unrest and injustice and just the pain associated with that, and virtual school for children. I mean, there was so much going on. But with the author incubator, you learn early on, I learned with my first book, that life happens. Life happens. And so, and drama happens, and you still need to write your book, and you still need to meet the deadlines. You still need to do all the things. So the process and the strategies created with the author incubator, I didn't change a thing. I drew from everything that I learned the first time around, the second time around, and I just implemented all of those things and was able to get my book done in a wonderful way. And I think too, I'm different. I'm different from my first book. I'm different from my second book. My life is different. My business is different. How I engage and interact is different. Um, I've had people private message me and DM me asking, how is it working with the author incubator? I want to write a book. I'm thinking about it. So I always say 100% of the time, if you want to go from thinking about it to actually doing it, then you definitely want to call and reach out to the author incubator. So hopefully that actually happens so that more people can get their work out there.
Well, it was so lovely seeing you. I love the cover right behind you. There you have it, folks. Flow, the devotional for grown folks. And I'm glad that this was able to be a big part of your communion with God in this third book and masterpiece. Congratulations, Pam.
Oh, thank you, Ramses. Thank you for having me. This has been wonderful. Thank you.